high-time mines. I forget the name of it. Okay, doesn't matter. Huge mines that could be on the wells, that could have been directed to destroy the city, and Germans believed generally, well, new cannons, large barrels and everything, and Germans were still stuck with the idea of destroying the Russian troops with the help of ammunition, not with the help of men. So it was high time to pay back with a very good operation. Before this very good operation had started, it had been delayed once, twice, because the troops had not been quite ready. And the final was the 19th of November. So the idea was that the first attack would be started from the north. From the north. The second from the south. Why do you think so? Only on the second days. First, on the first days, this one. On the second day, this one. What the reason do you think? First is the distance, of course. That is a much longer distance. That is a shorter distance. The second idea was that the Germans would have rushed onto the most powerful element of the counterattack on the first day, so that this road would have been a bit more clear. And I have mentioned today that Stalin also gave strict order, or his own instructions for the counterattack, that it should be a very bright day, so that Russians could finally have used these 4 fleets, air fleets that had been built around Stalingrad. We have seen a monument to one of the fleet. There used to be just 4th Air Fleet with Hryukin, who was the commander of 8th Fleet, and now it was absolutely different fleet. Now there were a lot of fighters, a lot of diving bombers, a lot of everything. But fortunately or unfortunately, we don't know, the weather was still very, very bad. Very bad. Clouds, mist, so the aviation could not be used. Stalin was very, very upset by this fact, because he wanted something very effective, something very picturesque, gorgeous assault, gorgeous beginning. But this did not happen. Fortunately, as Voronov, the representative of Stavka, the Marshal of Artillery, told later in his memoirs, he said, the final stage preparations had been so obvious that we could hardly have concealed them from the Germans. That could have been the failure for the whole operation. Luckily, the weather was very bad, and Germans had no idea what was happening in the fog, what was happening in the mist. And but many historical books write that that Russians could have been much more effective with a lot of aviation, this and that. But fortunately, this did not happen. They were advancing sometimes in complete mist, in complete fog. And about 30% of the tanks had been lost, in spite of the fact that the flanks had been considered something like a very weak point of the Germans with the Romanians there. So there were the 26th Tank Corps, 4th Tank Corps, 1st Tank Corps that took a very quick advance to the place appointed for meeting the settlement of Sovietsky. In the south, the commander of 4th Mechanized Corps, forget his name now, on the eve of the counterattack, wrote a letter to Stalin. Comrade Stalin, I'm a communist, and I'm not afraid to die. But I must say you that there is some funny command coming from the high command of Stalingrad front. They are trying to push us into some advance that was doomed and will never be successful. I'm, like a communist, want to warn you, Comrade Stalin, that this should be stopped by any means, because I consider that could destroy a lot of our troops for nothing. Stalin, of course, was very, very happy if the first rank commander who would start the advance on the first day, on the second day, had no idea what he was doing and where he was belonged to and what was the general idea. For him, that was just wonderful. That means that the preparations had been made very well. And to fulfill these preparations from the September was extremely, extremely difficult. I must say that I don't remember, of course, all the figures, but every month there was something like 20,000 carriages on each side supplied to the flanks, to the bridgeheads. In October there were even more, 26,000 carriages with people, with ammunition, with something. And in November even more. Every day 27,000 trucks or even more were moving around the area of the bridgeheads for the supplies of these counterattack bridgeheads. And nothing of it had been noticed. There was no big panic, nothing. Of course, there were some things that had been noticed, but Russians would send the aircraft themselves just for a recce trip, of course, without announcing the purpose. You must fly around, see if there is something strange. Probably you can see some German or Russian guns, trucks, tanks, or anything. They would normally arrive saying, okay, I have seen a barrel in one of the swamps of Tsatsa Lake. Saying, ah, wonderful, we should conceal it. And so the movement was going on,